I'm Teresa Hillenbrand. So what do you do if your baby is crying? Like most caregivers, you will comfort her. You will hold her, rock her, feed her, or change her. Generally, after being soothed, she will stop crying. A lot of parents believe that is the end of the story. You give her what she wants, she gets happy, and she stops crying. Done. But there is a lot more going on. The real lesson that your baby learns through your care is how to control her emotions and how to self-regulate, meaning healthy ways to deal with stress. How does a baby learn all of this when she can't even speak? It is through mom or dad's attachment. Let's take a look at how this works. By the way, this is a long video, but a very important one. I hope you will stay with me from beginning to end. When your crying baby is comforted, she learns how to manage her emotions through your soothing actions. You are actually helping to regulate your baby's nervous system because self-regulation is learned through interactions with you. It's almost like a Wi-Fi connection between you and your baby that communicates through your actions and emotions and teaches your baby about self-control. When I say Wi-Fi, I don't literally mean internet signal Wi-Fi. I just mean your baby picks up on your caring actions, and this makes an impression in his brain. Your baby must learn it is possible to control her emotions. Not that a baby can master this, she can't, but she can learn that certain actions can help soothe her and make her feel better. This is the beginning of self-control. Let's put it in a straightforward language. Because a mother soothes the baby learns that he can soothe himself. This is what researchers call affect regulation. Those brain connections the baby makes to calm himself will be the foundation of connections in the future. He slowly learns through your soothing actions that she can control herself and her emotions. A baby can't really think and reason about the way she is feeling like an adult can, but she does have her senses, which are engaged at birth. A baby can feel her world through her senses. The diaper is wet, and wet does not feel good. Mom changes diaper. What mom does feels good. Now, here's the point of my diaper story. Before your baby can self-regulate his feelings and emotions, you must regulate for the baby. It's service with a smile, mom or dad. Baby Wi-Fi picks up on those signals of caring, of soothing, of diaper changing, of rocking, of holding, and sends messages to the baby that begin to form connections. Mom's actions and mom's emotions soothe the baby, and the right side of his brain absorb all of this care, and the positive connections begin to form and imprint like a stamp. Let's briefly discuss the right side of the brain and why baby Wi-Fi receives soothing actions there. An infant's brain, as well as yours, is divided into two halves, commonly known as the right brain or right hemisphere, and left brain or left hemisphere. The two halves are connected by a band of neural tissue known as the corpus callosum. Each side has its own structure and is in charge of different functions. The right and left brain even grow at different rates. During the first 2 years of life, a baby's right brain will undergo a growth spurt before his left side catches up. In essence, each side of the brain processes experiences differently. The right side will gather information. It will focus on bodily sensations, visual images, emotions, and process all of it at the same time. It will get a feel for the experience or situation. It does not depend on the use of words. The right side gives us our gut feeling. Think of the right side as being more or less in charge of emotions, and the left as being in charge of language. Your baby's brain will do a lot of the growth by itself, but it cannot do all of the growth by itself. in order for full potential to be realized, you must provide a safe, dependable environment wherein he can attach to you, and that attachment will help develop your baby's brain, largely through sensory emotional interactions between mom or dad and the baby. I call those interactions baby Wi-Fi. So those positive interactions tune into the right side of the brain, and that side develops first. You have an incredible opportunity to influence what his senses feel in the right side of his brain, and that will influence the way he thinks about himself and the way he learns to control unpleasant feelings. As a parent, you provide him with the first clues about how to handle those feelings and emotions. Perhaps this is why the right side of the brain is dominant during the first year of life, as he begins to make sense out of how he is feeling and how these good feelings can be extended, and the bad ones soothed. In other words, the way you communicate your emotions to your child will affect how your baby's brain develops. Any experience will cause your baby's brain to connect neurons in a specific way. If these similar experiences are frequent, those same neurons that fired the first time will continue to fire again and become wired together. Or as scientists say, neurons that fire together, wire together. Each time your baby experiences something familiar, the neural connections in his brain get stronger. For example, as you hold your baby, brain connections are made that feel like touch, warmth, happiness, and security. With repetition, these brain connections are strengthened, and all that activity spreads to other areas of the brain. Neuron connections that are strengthened are neurons that recruit other neurons when an experience is lived over and over. For example, when your child first feels your warmth and caress, let's say about 20 neurons fire together. The second time he feels your caress, let's say about 60 neurons fire together. Each successive time, more and more neurons will fire together. In other words, the way he begins to understand you is through what you do, and that is imprinted in his brain and emotions. This happens during infancy because your baby's brain is in the process of providing neural connections with insulation, or myelin, which strengthens those connections. I'll talk about myelin in another video. Your baby has drives to connect to you and to protect himself from harm. Well, thanks to the way your baby's brain is wired with these drives, it has a built-in radar that helps to determine how to react to something or someone, whether to approach and connect or withdraw and avoid, or even to freeze up if overwhelmed with fear. The amygdala is a part of the right brain that takes in information from everything your baby experiences. The amygdala is especially tuned in to how other people treat or relate to the whole baby. It will determine if the experience is dangerous or safe, pleasurable or painful. This evaluation of the situation is what will guide your baby to react to the same situation in the future. Your baby will want to connect to your warmth and care and protect himself by avoiding a caregiver if his experience is negative. The more intense the feeling, whether positive or negative, the stronger the connection will be in his brain. The amygdala has the capacity to evaluate the experience without the use of words or consciousness. So even before his left brain begins its growth spurt as he acquires words, his brain will have already established neural connections that become neural pathways and then neural networks. Because your baby's brain is suited to learn how to handle his emotions by learning from what you do, he can also learn to take a few baby steps in the direction of self-regulation. the way a baby is positively soothed and cared for sets off synapses and patterns in the brain that develop into management systems and reward systems. Researchers call this regulation theory. Regulation theory is an offshoot of attachment theory. Regulation theory states that the way a baby attaches to the mother has a physical base, which is found in the nerves of the brain. The theory goes like this. If I feel close to mom, my brain will tell me about the pleasure, and my brain will develop in keeping with those good feelings. I will learn how to regulate the bad feelings by drawing on the good feelings I have experienced. If I don't feel that closeness to mom or dad, my brain will make other connections. So the way you treat your baby will actually affect the way your baby's brain develops through strengthening of nerves that register your positive, soothing actions. So what can mom or dad do to promote this positive regulation development? The answer is service with a smile. This includes face-to-face time. When you look at your baby and she looks back, her brain is engaged in facial, vocal, and gesture communication. This flips switches in your baby's brain. It is highly charged, full of emotion, and encourages face-to-face connections that expose your baby to a lot of information. She learns about you, all the good things you do to calm her crying, and the seeds of thinking are planted at this time. When gaze-to-gaze happens, a mother makes herself responsive to her baby's gaze and allows her baby to elicit responses from her. When the magic happens and mom and baby synchronize their feeling within a fraction of a second, baby Wi-Fi is really on. This increases happiness and excitement in both, and both adjust how much they are paying attention to each other, and through this gaze, stimulate each other's emotions. Intensity is increased. Importantly, this is how a baby begins to learn how to regulate his emotions by taking cues directly from mom, her actions and her facial expressions. So this back and forth between baby and mom is really time to learn about how each other is feeling and acting in a way that imprints those feelings in the brain. Eye contact is essential to regulation theory. The poets say that the eyes are the window to the soul. The way your eyes connect to your baby with love makes a difference not only to your baby but also to you. It is the beginning of a mutual attachment and also is the beginning of brain development and discovery that unpleasant feelings can be soothed by mom or dad, and that's a big discovery. In an ideal setting with great interaction, mom picks up on how her baby is feeling, his state of mind, and mom can regulate those feelings, both the good and bad, and communicate the feelings back to the infant. If baby is tired, mom reflects this back. It's sleepy time. If the baby is happy and having fun, mom reflects this back. It's time to have fun. This is a very finely tuned dance between mother and child. The more mom picks up on her child's mood and responds according to him, the more the baby feels, the more that is learned and recorded. For example, the more she picks up on his agitated mood and responds accordingly by soothing him, the more the baby is able to respond positively and go to a state of calmness. Thus, the more he learns to control his emotions. The more this cycle is repeated, the more mom and baby begin to synchronize their interactions. In this way, mom helps the baby process what is going on in him by adjusting how they will interact emotionally, how much time they will spend interacting, and when to start and end the interacting. All of this is based on the baby's unique temperament, and these interactions help your baby regulate his emotions. The key to this mom and baby interaction is that mom must be able to regulate her own emotions. So mom needs to be attuned to herself in order to tune into her infant's mood. The goal is not to just stop the crying, for example. It is to tune into the baby's mood and bring him back to where he should be. This way, mom can increase the level of positive soothing experiences and help regulate her baby. In effect, she becomes her baby's Wi-Fi. This works if, and only if, mom has a good grip on her own emotions. Such regulation of emotion is not just controlling bad. It also involves intensifying the positive emotions. Play is a good way of keeping the positive feelings going. Play and other pleasurable activities are necessary for your baby to organize himself in a much more complex way in the future. So, baby Wi-Fi maximizes the positive states, not just putting the fire out. Researchers also talk about touching. The right touch helps to stabilize emotions. Again, the same learning process takes place. As your baby feels better, by the touching she develops emotional stability. Again, these connections take cues from mom's stability. Talking to your baby is also important. While your baby's language acquisition happens over time, your tone of voice communicates a lot about how you feel towards your baby. The right tone of voice signals your emotional stability that your baby will pick up on. In other words, her Wi-Fi is on, ready to receive positive signals and build brain connections she can use. Some researchers believe the whole strategy of a baby is to get people to engage with them, by babbling, for example, so they will be well provided for. Not a bad strategy after all. All these positive emotional interactions have a further benefit. Hormones that regulate stress are released. This reward system is experienced in infancy and is carried forward into adulthood. So when you soothe your baby by holding her or feeding her, you also promote these positive natural hormones that help regulate stress within your baby. So there's a lot more to changing diapers than you think. Weak Wi-Fi. If both mom and baby are having a bad day, and we know this happens more than we would like to admit, it is important that mom make a transition from negative feelings to positive feelings so that her baby can do the same. Researchers believe the baby will be better equipped to have the ability to deal with emotions if mom is tuned in and makes a positive transition. And it goes without saying, if you're down, never take it out on your baby, because the opposite of good attachment will happen. If mom and baby have a disconnected relationship, then an infant can respond to a lack of attached caregiving by ignoring the caregiver. And they can go into a semi-trance-like state whereby the baby does not respond to the caregiver. Babies can also avert their gaze, meaning they look away rather than connect with a caregiver. Babies do sense if their needs are being met fully, and the more you meet his needs with soothing and comforting, the more he will know what is going on and learn positive lessons from it. If the attachment between parents and the baby is seriously disrupted, this can be traumatic for the infant and quite bad down the road when he grows older. The infant will likely not develop the ability to self-regulate at the appropriate time. An infant who grows without the ability to self-regulate can become a compromised adult who has difficulty handling his own emotions, either positive ones or negative ones, because the ability to self-regulate was not developed early on. Such an adult may also have difficulty forming relationships with himself and others. The adult or adolescent can become destabilized without a solid foundation of self-regulation, and life becomes a struggle. That inability to self-regulate also makes the adolescent more open to stress and trauma because they have not developed the basic foundations to deal with powerful emotions we all feel at times. Here's some recent research conclusions. Learning how to handle emotional ups and downs is an essential part of the development process. Often, we see developmental milestones as observable events, such as a baby's first crawling experiences, baby's first words, baby's first haircut, baby's first steps. While these things are important, they are not the whole developmental story. Learning how to handle emotions might not have a defining event associated with it, like a first spoken word, but it is very significant in the baby's development. Self-control and emotional balance are very important foundations in discovering who we are and how we relate to others and the world. This critical right brain emotionally based attachment is far more than just coping with emotional swings, ups or downs. Researchers point out that these early secure regulations and attachments are critical in developing trust, empathy, and even moral development. These three aspects of life are enormously important, and it appears a good part of the foundation is set during infancy. Remember, your baby's Wi-Fi is on, and it wants to connect to you to learn how to regulate. That connection goes beyond the obvious physical necessities that you can see, like being fed and changed, and goes into deeper areas like regulating emotions and regulating the self through releasing stress in healthy ways. And all that regulation of self starts with a foundation you provide to your infant during the first year by your good example.